p.m., and I call the February 12th, 2024 School Board meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Maggie, would you please call the roll?
Chris Lau.
Here.
Lindsay Neat.
Excused.
Maggie Smith here. Bridget Todd Robbins.
Here.
Barb Winch.
Here.
Crystal Lee.
Here.
Jennifer Deek.
Here.
Khadijah Islam.
Here.
All right, with 6 of the 7 board members present, I declare a quorum. I note that the agenda has been posted, distributed, and sent to the local media. With this in mind, are there any changes to the agenda? I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
Chris has moved.
Second.
Maggie.
Maggie? Maggie has seconded to approve the agenda as published. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion to approve the agenda as published, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion to approve the published agenda has passed. All right, and we do not have any public participation this evening. So moving on to recognition and thank yous, Dr. Mueller.
Yeah. Well, the first recognition is for our drivers in our transportation department. This week is our week that we celebrate all that they do. We do know that the importance of all the work they do, rain or shine, or snow, whatever the weather is, just making sure our students have a safe ride to school. And I just want to thank our leadership, which are here tonight to give a presentation, Dan and Andrea, for all their work and everything they do in helping our drivers. And I do know that they're very busy often training our drivers as we continue to work through the driver shortage as best as we can to get our students to not only school each and every day, but to all the other activities that we want them to participate in. So we know it's not an easy job, so just thank you for all you do with that. And then secondly, next week is FFA Week. Future Farmers of America chapter is celebrated nationally celebrated nationally in a week-long tradition began in 1947, this designation of this week. And I love to see all the activities that the FFA club that we have at the high school put on for the staff and students. So I look forward to next week, and we get to see all the fun events that will happen. So we appreciate all that they do and also their advisor and all the time that they put in. So thank you.
All right, moving on to reports and discussion. Item 8.1, I welcome representatives of the Holmen High School Student Council to present. This presentation is for report only.
All right.
All right. Hello, guys. My name is Quinn Moldenhauer, and I'm the president of this year's Holmen High School Student Council. And here's my officer team.
I'm Haley Olson. I'm the Vice President of Student Council.
Hello, my name is Emily Voss, and I am the Senior Rep of Student Council.
Hi, my name is Daniel Ott, and I'm the sophomore representative.
I'm Abby Holte. I am another sophomore representative. So to start off, this year we had a new undertaking of a staff parking recognition project. Every month we recognize 4 staff members in the building to be given a special parking spot, which has been chosen with coordination of building and grounds, which we would like to give a big thank you to. We worked very closely with them, and they helped with a lot of decision making of the project. They get this spot, which was chosen with that collaboration. It is a prime parking spot, you could say. We are very happy with the outcome it has had so far this year. As you can see on the slide, these are just a sample of all of the members who have been awarded with the spot. And it is a very exciting opportunity for our staff, which they have expressed to us they are very happy that has come this year. Overall, it has helped with morale, especially with the new meetings that have been put in place as of this year. And we even involved some of our student body with implementing the signage, which Student Council paid for and designed ourselves. The signage was put in place by one of our shops classes during some of their free time in the week. So it was a good way to have our students also understand what student council is doing within the building and not just homecoming or our usual events.
Talking about Standout Student, this is a program that we implemented last year at Holmen High School. Student Council created the program and implemented it last year, and we continued it through this year. What Standout Student is, if you've never heard of it before, is it recognizes students in the classroom and outside of the classroom that are doing things very positive that they may have not been recognized for. So we have 5 characteristics that we have outlined, and teachers are able to submit students for multiple or choose their own characteristic. And teachers are encouraged to submit 1 student per month, but they're always encouraged to submit more. Students who are submitted for Standout Student receive a handwritten card that has the areas that they were submitted for, and then the message that the teacher wrote along with it. They are also entered into a drawing for a coupon for a free ice cream cone at McDonald's. And then all seniors who are recognized their senior year are entered into an opportunity for a scholarship at the end of the year. We've recognized over 100 students with this year and last year, and we are excited to continue this program throughout this year and next year.
In years past, we have hosted the blood drive at the Holmen High School, and August of 2023, we hosted our first summer blood drive, which went very well. We collected 38 units of blood and saved 114 lives, which is amazing. Fall this year, we collected 61 units of blood and saved 183 lives. And then this Friday, February 16th, we'll be hosting the spring blood drive. And so far we have 76 donors. If you're interested, we still have plenty of room to have you guys sign up. All you have to do is just go to Miss Calloway and we'll get you right up.
One new thing we did this year is we took everyone in Student Council to a fall leadership conference. So this was at the Chippewa Falls Technical College, and it was the WASC Fall Leadership Conference. At this conference, we went into different breakout rooms and learned how to be a better leader and different leadership styles.
And then, like always, we organized a lot of homecoming. We had to get all of the dress-up days approved, and we also came up with them. Monday we had PJ Day, Tuesday Neon, Wednesday we had Western Day, Thursday we had Jersey Day, and like always, Friday we had Spirit Day. And then we also helped set up signs for the parade the day before to make sure that people do not park on the parade route. And the day of, we helped organize the over 50 floats that we had that year, or this year. And then after, we had the homecoming movie night where we watched the Barbie movie, and we also sold concessions to students. And thank you, and we hope to see you guys at the end of the year review. Does anyone have any questions?
All right. Any questions?
I don't have a question. I just, I really wanted to commend you guys on, all of the wonderful work that you guys are doing, and in particular that Standout Student program, I think is really cool. I remember I've heard folks talking about it before, but I think from my perspective sitting up here, a lot of the efforts in the district are trying to help students cultivate these exact qualities that you've highlighted through this program. And so for you as students to go out to other students and call out these great things is really impactful. And so I hope that you all know that, and I'm hoping that that's the feedback that you're hearing, and I'm really excited that this is going to continue. So thank you guys for that.
All right. Anything else? Okay, that's all we got. Thank you. Moving on to item 8.2. School counselors will now provide their annual presentation to the board. This item is for report only.
Okay, good evening. I'm Amanda Jensen. I'm one of the school counselors. We are the team from the high school, so I have Kelly Cornetta, Hannah Nickum, and Lindsay Sipe here with me. We also have Heather Franzini as a member of our team who had a prior obligation. We are excited to be here tonight. Last week was National School Counseling Week, and we want to highlight our curriculum and the work that we do with students, along with the challenges that can come along with that. On the slide up here, just to summarize, we follow the American School Counseling Association model, and this is a framework for all school counselors nationwide. This framework uses mindsets and behaviors, which are standards that guide our program. And these standards fall under any of the counseling domains that you see listed on the bottom there: academic, personal, social, or career. And we use these domains to guide our work and also build strong relationships with all of our students in our building. The knowledge of the ASCA model that we use, through that we provide brief solution-focused counseling to our students, and when needed, we use our connections in the community to help with building mental health recommendations that we might have for students as we need to kind of refer out and recommend those additional supports. These connections with students and our community do not end when our school year is done, and our students continue to need support even when school is not in session.
So what these domains look like when we deliver this curriculum through those mindsets and behavior standards is really delivered in a variety of ways. So some of the core instruction that you'll see us doing is really through making sure that we have delivered these lessons and covered these standards in the classroom in front of all of our students. So when we're talking about hitting the targets within our academic planning and goal setting units, we partner with our speech classrooms. And we partner with them in order to do their interest inventories and get them thinking about what their future plans are through their informative speech. We notice through our needs assessment data, which we give annually. You'll hear Ms. Gimmer talk about the YRBS data, which is given every other year. But what we found is that needs assessment is local. It's information that we can use immediately the following week to start planning what that batch of students needs versus a 2-year delay. And that needs assessment has really helped us deliver the curriculum through suicidal ideation lesson in the health curriculum. So we saw through the needs assessment data that we had an increase in suicidal ideation in our students. We wanted to make sure that our students knew how to respond to a peer or to a classmate that was at risk. And so we worked and partnered with that health department in order to deliver that lesson through that core curriculum to every 9th grade student. We noticed a lack of coping skills through our needs assessment and really that area of growth for our students. So we partnered with our Language 10 classrooms in order to deliver to every 10th grade student through an SEL lesson about coping strategies and what is healthy, what is unhealthy, what is in your locus of control, and what is outside of your control. So those are some just examples of how we're delivering core curriculum in order to meet the immediate needs of what we're seeing in our students through that needs assessment data. We're also developing and have implemented small group based on that needs assessment. So small group in the areas of study skills, anxiety. We've targeted with a school-wide goal in reading and math. We've tried our hand at some math small group interventions, really trying to meet the needs of where our kids are at. When we're looking at individual student planning, we're in the thick of this right now as we're getting ready for a big overhaul in our schedule. So we're switching to an H day, V day, M day. And in order to do that, we really have a lot of advising that we provide our students through our junior seminars, meeting with them about an hour, hour and a half in order to make sure that their plans are ready as they start marching forward to graduation and life after high school. In addition to those individual student meetings, we meet with every 9th and 10th grader through the universal classroom in order to develop those 4-year plans and advise them based on their individual goals. We also will obviously be at parent-teacher conferences, but parent-counselor conferences are a little bit different in the evenings when we're providing FAFSA support, bringing in local university admissions counselors and financial aid counselors in order to help gain access to that FAFSA application. We also have junior parent night. That is really the kickoff to juniors starting to think about their post-high school plans. Another parent night we host, back to school and senior night. So when the college admissions started earlier, it starts now August 1st, whereas before it was always in the middle of September. We're trying to target that student need by having parent nights in August in order to get those families rolling on whatever their next steps look like in order to get those applications, transcripts, scores sent. And then, of course, senior recognition night with scholarships. That's a big undertaking, I would say, with our students, with the need for them to be earning more scholarship money in order to close some of that financial gap. So those are just some examples of evening parent counselor nights in addition to the parent-teacher conference nights. Responsive services. So when you think about counselors, we provide a lot of individual counseling. Ms. Jensen mentioned those referrals to outside agencies. Since October, when we started collecting this data up until this morning, we had over 800 visits to our office. Much of that is individual counseling, small group counseling, crisis response for our students. And then leadership, Ms. Nickham will be talking about a little bit more here in depth. But that really is that partnership that we have with parents in need, and then community members as well, to meet the needs of our kids.
Okay, so I am the career counselor. I've presented a few times, so I've seen all of you. I should be a very familiar face. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about my role in the counseling office as the career counselor, which looks a little bit different than maybe you're used to or from the other four ladies on my team. So originally, my position started as like a 0.5 AP coordinator, so advanced placement, and 0.5 tag. And this is my 5th year at the high school, and I feel like this position has just kind of evolved into lots of different hats. So on the screen, you can see a few of the different things that fall under career counselor, but I just wanted to highlight a few things. So Mrs. Edwards and I presented earlier about AP and kind of AP testing, things like that. So we currently this year have 196 students registered for 246 exams over 12 classes. So that's kind of the AP world. In our transcripted credit courses, we have 19 courses, and so I oversee both of those programs. With transcripted credit, it's registering all of our students to get that free credit at Western, working with the Western K-12 folks almost daily to make sure that all of our students are receiving those credits and registered and kind of set up for that next step. Dual credit is something that has really grown at the high school, so we have lots of new partnerships. We have 4 currently, so UWL, UW Oshkosh, UW River Falls, and UW Green Bay. So offering those dual credit opportunities for students, different than transcripted, so students are paying for these credits, but they're about $105 a credit, so a huge discounted rate. But then they're able to earn those college credits before leaving our doors to get ready for life after high school. Start College Now and Early College Credit is another program. So this is a program that students are leaving our campus and they're actually going to Western, Viterbo, or UWL. We currently have 27 students participating in that this semester alone. So those students are leaving our campus and they're heading to post-secondary institutions to do some exploration. And for that program, I meet with families and students to talk about the program, help them with the registration process. March 1st is our fall deadline, so students right now are between registration in our building and planning for next year are eagerly completing all those different applications. Youth Apprenticeship is another program that I feel like I have not spoken about to the board, and this is a really awesome program. It's hands-on job training, so students have part-time jobs and they're leaving our building to go to work, and they're earning 2 elective credits during the school year for working. And we currently have 14 students who are apprentices in the community. Everything from healthcare to marketing to construction to automotive, many different pathways, so some really cool things. In regards to the academic and career support from my position, we talked about registration and getting students ready for registration. Zello is a key component to that. So Zello is our online platform to help with career planning. It's a statewide program. And so it kind of has endless opportunities, but students can do different career interest inventories. They can search jobs, they can search universities, they can search volunteer opportunities, but we use it a lot for course planners. So we're meeting with all of the students to plan out the courses that they want to take over the 4 years. So looking at their end goal, what do they want to do when they leave Holmen High School, and how are we going to get them prepared for that? So working with freshmen to plan not only their sophomore year, but what do you want to take your junior year and what do you want to take your senior year? So really working with Zello to upload all of our courses, upload all the proper credit amounts, things like that, so students are able to kind of track their progress and their planning through 4-year plans. Another thing I'm the counselor that oversees HVA, so the Holmen Virtual Academy. I work closely with Mrs. Edwards on the students that are taking our courses through HVA. So we have about 18 high school students right now. So communicating with their families and with the students to help keep them on track towards graduation. Another exciting piece is the collaboration that I do with community partnerships and businesses. So not only through apprenticeships, but also facilitating things like our Trade Tuesday. So every Tuesday, we have a different organization and business come into our lunch area and provide some kind of hands-on activity display to showcase the different careers and opportunities that businesses have. Last week, we had meat cutting, so they were displaying the different slices of steak and searing steak and all sorts of exciting things. Another thing that falls under my plate is I am the education practicum teacher. So for students who, Crystal's over there going like this because she's in my class right now. So students who are looking to work with students or with children post high school. So whether they want to be a pediatrician or they want to be an educational assistant or a teacher, they are in my class, which I hold 2 sections a term, and students are in the elementaries and the middle schools, working side by side with students, helping students throughout the Holmen School District, which is awesome. The other thing is the Career and Technical Education Incentive Grant. So this is through the Department of Workforce Development, and it's really a grant that is trying to promote CTE programs across public schools and across school districts so that we are helping students be prepared for not only jobs and things like that, but also to meet the needs of the workforce. So some of these positions would be like our CNAs, so students who have gotten the CNA certification. EMT, we have students in a fire academy right now, so they'll earn their Firefighter 1 certification. The Automotive Service Excellence, so our ASE certifications. Ryan Ziegler, our automotive teacher, offers a lot of different ASE certifications. And then I submit them all through a grant, and Holmen is reimbursed or given up to $1,000 per certification that is earned. So in 2023, that was $25,395, and in 2022, that was $22,786. And those certifications just keep increasing. I think this is our 3rd year of ASE certifications, and we started, I think I tested 5 students the first time, and last week I had just shy of 25 students in a class that got their certification. So lots of different great opportunities.
So one of the things that is unique about our role is that we get to serve as a bridge really between students and staff, parents and staff, sometimes students and teachers, those types of things. So I think that we are in a unique role that we have the ability to really meet kids where they're at. And so if they're sharing something with us that they're really struggling with, we've been able to have those conversations behind closed doors in our office and then really work on those skills directly with staff. And so that's something that when we're talking about holistic students and
holistic learning for students. We recognize that hard conversations are really important. And so, in addition to some of these other things that we're doing, we really are proud of the leadership that we're able to show our students by also being on some other school district committees. And you can see the list that we're on, just really wanting our students to have a voice and being able to have a voice in some of these committees that we know directly impact our students. And so being able to sit in and hear and give some really valuable feedback is really important to our group so that we can have the best program and supports for our students as possible. So this is our school counseling, our new therapy dog, Molly. She's new to us. Our school social worker, Tiffany Lajeunesse, recently went through a training. And so Molly's with us a couple days a week. And then if you see that other picture, that's our sensory room space. So that's our deregulation space. So students that are really struggling in classes, maybe they're anxious, maybe they had a test or something happened in their personal lives, or they just need we like a calm down space. This is our space for students to do that. This was through the new renovation that we had in our office a few years ago. And then the furniture in there is actually grant-funded furniture. So we decided we wanted some fun and funky things for our kids. So we have some lamps and bubble lamps and different types of chairs for kids that are in our space that maybe need a little bit more private feel. So it has like those tall sides. So that's a really cool space for kids to use. They just check out with their teachers and then come in, don't put their phones in the sensory room space, and then they can use it for up to 15 minutes, help them regulate. We have some coloring books and then send them back to class. So really working on regulating their emotions and then sending them back to class, because we know that kids can't function if they're stressed. And so it's a really good space for kids, and our teachers and staff are awesome about letting kids use it and are flexible in and out of that space. As with anything, we do have some challenges. So we have it's a challenge for everyone. So while our overall district numbers are decreasing at the high school, we're starting to feel that squeeze a little bit that over the course of the years we've heard other buildings talk about. The ASCA model, as Mrs. Jensen talked about earlier, is the model that we work under. And so their recommendation is 250 students to one counselor. And so right now we're higher than that. We're at 317 students to one counselor. And so that really makes it challenging. As you heard, 800 kids in our office since October. And though a lot of those kids, we're just seeing an increase of daily needs, I would say. So things that we've kind of seen an increase in from our needs assessment, as well as some of the YRBS data, is suicidal ideation, self-harm, eating disorders, gaps in academic performance, academic refusal, lack of social and emotional skills, daily regulation, mental health concerns, so a rise in anxiety and depression, I would say, is kind of our biggest ones that we're seeing. And then just a lack of organizational and problem-solving skills coming out of COVID. So these are just things that I think, as we're seeing high numbers of students and high numbers of challenges, or high numbers of student challenges, time just really becomes one of those things that's obviously a factor. Another factor is the understanding of what our role is. So in the early to late 90s, the switch from guidance to school counseling really became something that is a little bit misunderstood, I would say, by the general population. So I think the word guidance counselor is sometimes interchanged with the role that we have. And it's just so much more than that now, I think, as you can see. So it's not just about the schedule, and it's not just about college planning. We're doing a lot of that mental health work. We're doing a lot of push and support into the classrooms, some behavior help with staff. So I think that just understanding that the role has changed and is very diverse, and helping to meet some of the needs of our diverse students has been a huge part of a switch in our role. Not to say that we're not scheduling and doing that post high school planning, but I think we're seeing a huge impact of our work. I would say half or more of our days really becoming mental health focused. And so I think that has been something that maybe the community doesn't know, is that we're starting to do some of those different things. We're also aware of a proposed zero-based allocation for extended contracts in the summer, with a possible cap of being less than our 13 days. So just wanting to know that would be a challenge for us, because in general, we just can't do all of the things that we have been doing right now with less days. New families and being available to kids in the summer, I think, is really important. And it's been something that our team prides ourselves on, is being available for students, not I would say more than we probably should. So I think that this is something that's really important to our team, is just recognizing all of the awesome things that we do that can't always be done in the time that we have. So thank you so much for your time, and we're just really proud to be able to share with you some of the things that we do and the things that we're really proud of, and we couldn't do it without the support of our administration and a board like you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, any questions?
I just have one about you were mentioning, and I might have missed this because I was also looking at all of the things on this like career counselor slide at the same time. But when you were talking about these, when folks are or when students are going out into or getting these certifications, and then the district gets money back, does that then go back into these programs that you guys do? You know, I guess I don't even know budgetarily where that
Can
goes.
answer that.
Yeah,
It goes
thanks.
into the district fund to help support the staff that serves the students in the classroom
Awesome.
for career and tech ed.
And then I was just curious how it has gone, knowing that the FAFSA this year has been very messed up. How has that all gone for you all, and what is that looking like as we're getting super close to like some of these deadlines? Are you anticipating kind of a
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we had an event that we partnered with Onalaska called College Goal. So we went there, I think 3 weeks ago. And we actually had more families than Onalaska, even though Onalaska hosted. Big celebration there. But we brought in local community partners, and it was the first time I had seen the form, and I felt like it was a lot easier. So I think it's like 35 questions in. Comparatively, I think it was like 60 or 70 before. And so it was a lot quicker. Families said that once they had things set up, it was really slick. So the feedback from the families was that it was much better.
awesome?
Yeah.
The retrieval tool is also, I think, more efficient than it has been on the previous FAFSA. So the retrieval tool is where it's gonna dip into your parents' taxes, the IRS website, and kind of pull that financial data out.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit wonky for families on the previous FAFSA. What I'm hearing now and the feedback I would say on a lot of the listservs is that this FAFSA is a lot better and easier for families. So that's a big win.
And I think it's more timely too. They get an email right away. Like once a student has completed their portion, it'll kick out an email directly to the parents, and then the parents can fill out their portion as well. So I think there had been a delay in some of that before, but really working to be a little bit more responsive and timely to families.
Very cool. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm curious, how do you divide up all the students among yourselves? Is it like alphabetical order, or is it by grade, or is it topical area, or?
So the caseload counselor, so us plus Heather Franzini, we're divided out by alphabet range, and then we each also then coordinate a grade level. So I'm SD through Z, so I'm the end of the alphabet, and I coordinate all ninth grade programming. So push and support for your planning when we do our freshman checks and check in with every freshman every single week for a whole semester. I coordinate that with the teachers, and then and then Kelly does seniors, Amanda does juniors, Heather does 10th grade, in addition to like our families that we specifically work with on our caseload.
Okay,
And
thank
we
you.
love that family connection. So being able to have a family from a few years ago, kind of know the family dynamics, know the siblings, it's a nice touch point and easy way to communicate with our new students, having that family familiarity.
Cool. All right, any other questions? All right, thank you much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 8.3, Director of Transportation Dan Garrett will now provide an update to unusual hazardous transportation plan for the School District of Holmen. This item is also for report only.
Hello. Dan Garrett, Director of Transportation Services.
I'm Andrea Gulke, the Assistant Director.
And with it being Wisconsin's school bus driver awareness, I just wanted to thank all of the drivers we do have, not just our CDL bus drivers, but our van drivers, our educational assistants, our mechanics, administrative assistants, everybody that goes into getting the day through. I just can't thank them enough. They do a great job. It's wonderful to work with them all.
And thank
So-
you for your support.
Yeah, definitely. So we are here to talk to you about unusually hazardous transportation, or UHT is what we kind of abbreviate it to. I think I can move this over here. So this is just kind of what we're going to be speaking about today. So why do we need a UHT program? It's this is basically how we get reimbursed from the state for our students that we transport within that 2-mile range. We're not required to provide transportation to those students, but when we do so, we get reimbursed as long as we can prove that there's unusually hazardous transportation. This plan, we have to redo it because our last plan is from 2007, so it's been pretty outdated. And within that time, Holmen has grown a lot. New neighborhoods, traffic lights, sidewalks, speed limit changes, the roundabout. There's just been several changes that we felt it was a need to redo our UHT plan with the state. So what is a UHT plan? It's basically documents that we have to bring to the state. We have to prove to the state that the areas we've gone through are hazardous to our students to walk, to find other modes of transportation to that school. So what we had to do is we have to come up with a map of those areas and a description of what makes that area hazardous. So what we've done is we've gone through several of the areas together, being from the district and with help from other members. We've gone through those areas, sat down and decided what was going to be done, and then we're starting to put that into a plan. So now we're developing that plan, and one of this part of it is coming to the board, let you know that we're working on the plan. This is what we're looking at. Getting more recommendations, working with the sheriff's department. And I think that's the process that we're doing right now. So we're right in the middle of this process. I've already met with all of the principals at their buildings. I've had a few meetings with the sheriff's department and with Holmen Police Department. We've driven through areas of the district to try to determine if it is hazardous or not. So that's what we've been working on. And these are, I'm not reading all the steps. I think you've had it for a little while. I did include a lot of information in here. So with the criteria, so when we're looking at areas that we're going to deem hazardous, the things that we look at, that they suggest we look at, is age of the students, the lack of sidewalks, lack of crossing guards, lack of local law enforcement in the area, railroad crossings, width of the roadways, and traffic counts. But it does not dictate a specific condition on what would make it hazardous. So that's up for the board, us, and the sheriff's department to decide on that. So what we've already done, and Andrea, thank you very much for your map working skills. We've mapped each school, and on that map we located what we think is hazardous, working with the principals again and the sheriffs. That was, I think this is our third or fourth editing of the map, so we continue to work on it. It's a work in progress. So we met with everybody, met with the sheriff's department. The maps are not finalized yet, and we'll get to the map shortly. We are still continuing to gather information. Like I said, we're waiting for some of the other members of the community that we've reached out to get some of their input. We're still meeting with the sheriff's department again. We're keep getting input along the way. We have to still edit the maps every time we have to get more information. The maps are re-edited, and then once that is finished, we have to actually get it approved from the sheriff's department. And since we're working with the sheriff's department, we think that once we have a final map, it'll be approved because we're working hand in hand with them to decide what is hazardous. And once that is done, we come to the board, make sure the board approves it before we bring that, and we submit it to DPI for approval. DPI at that time can say, yes, it's a go, or no, they want us to look at something. From everything that I've read, as long as the sheriff is on board with it, the DPI usually does not come back with any major issues. Some of the feedback we've received in talking with community and talking with principals is the distance that students have to go to get to school if they're not provided transportation. What happens during the weather? What happens if we're picking up a sibling, like maybe a 4K student? Why are, for a big question was sidewalks, if we don't have sidewalks, but as stated earlier, that does not mean it's an automatic non-hazardous area. It's just something we have to look at. No lights, no crosswalks, no crossing guards. Those are some of the issues that were brought to our attention, and we looked at these in all of the different school zones. And we're continuing to listen to all of the feedback we received and go through it with the sheriff department. So these maps, they're not finalized yet. On these maps, the pink represents the unusually hazardous transportation zone. The dotted line, when we get to the elementary school, represents what is the current school boundary. We know that there might be boundary changes coming up, rumored, so we also wanted to include the whole area on those maps, just in case the boundaries do move. That way we won't have to go back and resubmit everything. The numbers on the maps corresponds to the description of the area. So we'll go on our first one here. So this is the Holmen High School. So the map is centered on the entrance of the Holmen High School. There's 2 miles from that. Once again, the pink is what would be UHT zone. The grayish zone would be specialized transportation and 4K transportation only. Any questions on how the map looks before we go through them all?
Could you say once more, what is specialized transportation?
Specialized transportation for some of our special needs students. So those gray zones, we're still going to provide transportation to those students and to our 4K students.
Okay, so are the maps saying that students in the red would be bused and the gray zones would not?
Correct.
Okay.
So it helps to look at it through a funding lens, I think. We are required to transport all students that are 2 miles or more away from school. So that's everyone outside the big circle. Within that circle, red would be considered hazardous transportation, which means we must provide transportation under the law and we get aid from the state for that transportation. Gray is not considered hazardous. So specialized transportation would still get funding reimbursement from the state. If we chose to continue to provide busing, we would not receive aid for those students in those areas. Does that help?
It does. And then right now, we're busing the majority of the gray areas.
Correct.
With the exception of the zones that changed with this school year, correct?
Correct.
Yes. So right now for the high school, right along McHugh, we currently do not have busing. And then down to, is it Starlight?
Starlight.
So, I don't know, does your mouse show up on there? Kind of.
There it is.
Yep. So kind of the first couple blocks down into that gray zone, we do not have busing for right now. So yes, we can continue to provide busing for those gray areas. We do not get funding for it.
And then just another follow-up. Can you remind us, so I think you said $15 per pupil per...
It's up to $15. It depends on the actual distance that they're traveled to, but it's up to $15 a student.
Per year?
Per year.
Okay. And that's the only reimbursement for busing?
Correct. And so each of these maps are different, and we did base them off of age. Like the high school, we have some zones in here that even though Evergreen would cover some of the same zones as well, we felt that because of the age of the students, it was unsafe, and the sheriff's department agreed with us. So, are there any questions on this specific high school map, or I'll continue on?
You can continue on.
So middle school, it looks almost identical to the high school. It's just over a few miles, but they opened up several different safe zones or the specialized transportation zones on here. This is a zone that the officer and I drove through for maybe just over an hour, just looking at the middle school zone to decide what would be considered hazardous transportation. Prairie View, there's not much that could be done in Prairie View. It's an isolated. And this is where we see the dotted line in here. This is showing the current school boundaries for Prairie View. Evergreen, those are the boundaries. A lot of the student counts in Evergreen are actually in this zone south. That is not even in the district, in that school district for right now, but.
Evergreen for a second. So Evergreen, what Dan was trying to say before about different age levels having different
thank you.
rules. Remington Hills is not being considered hazardous for middle school and high school. However, for smaller children, we felt it would not be safe for them to be walking through, for example, like the cement manufacturing area, and then also crossing Holmen Drive. So that's kind of one of those difference in age that we wanted to consider.
Thank you. Viking. Once again, some of the student counts in here include students that are outside of the school zones the way they are now. Sand Lake, it's pretty equivalent to what we have done this year as well. Sand Lake Road itself is one of the roads that we have a lot of red light violations on it. And speaking with both HPD and the Sheriff's Department, everybody is uncomfortable with that road. Questions?
I have a lot of questions
Yeah.
on this topic. Sorry.
It is a lot. We are here to help you.
Yeah. I guess one just like situational question.
Yeah.
Has the village or the county, like, has there been any movement on safe routes to school or updating our safe routes plan? Because I think that might even be pre the last UHT update.
Yeah, it was before the last UHT. I have been getting emails again that we're going to start meeting up,
Okay.
but the safe routes and UHT, they're two separate things. That's why I didn't want to come, because I wanted to talk about both of them, but I didn't want to combine them at the same meeting so they wouldn't be confusing. UHT is how we get funded, and safe routes are no matter if you're in a specialized transportation zone or whatever zone you're in, it's just the safest way to school.
Sure. Okay. I was just curious if that, I'm glad to hear there's movement there, because I think the last I heard they were talking about redoing the plan and maybe had grant money. And from my limited experience, I understand that opens up potential funding opportunities for like programming to support students who are walking and biking and how to do so safely. And then also sometimes infrastructure dollars when there are pain points, or like crosswalks or things like that. But I think we have to have the plan first.
I think right now we're looking at grants or other type of fundings to get that plan in place to get the district inspected or walked through for the safe routes. That would be the next step, is to get actually another walkthrough of the school district.
Okay.
To provide that plan, then to go forward with what the safe routes would look like.
Sure. And then I guess to the maps, the other question I had when looking at them, because I think some of them are, these are pretty significant proposed changes. Like, I don't know if you have like a ballpark of like what percentage.
I didn't bring percentages. I got some estimated student counts in in all of the zones, but I did not break that down in percentages.
Okay. And I guess like in thinking through other impacts from a shift away from busing, like I'm thinking, the school drop-off lines, because I think a lot of parents, even if their kids are middle or high school, when it's dark and those earlier start times, like are probably going to resort to driving, or having their students drive if they're able to. Like, are there thoughts about, I guess, any negative consequences related to like increased traffic because we're having many more people driving?
We have looked at that, and I know some of the construction that's going on is we're hoping it's going to alleviate some of that. For instance, just in the high school, if you've been there recently with the roundabout, traffic in and out of the high school has, it's just amazing now. It's really smooth. It's there's still lines at time, but everybody's getting in and out. But it is something that we didn't consider when we're saying if it is a unusual hazardous transportation zone or not. We didn't consider that, but we know it's going to affect the schools, student drop off, longer lines. It is something that we're looking at and we know is going to happen.
Okay. And then I guess just like rationale wise, I understand like we have to update this plan regardless, but like is is part of this proposal whether or not the board supports like these changes in who we're busing?
That would be, the board would be, you're saying that you do agree with with the way the zones are. Does not mean that we have to stop providing transportation. That means
Okay.
we just will not get paid for doing that transportation. Which I don't know if we can continue to do that then.
Yep, so my understanding is once you fine tune the plan, it goes to the sheriff's office, then comes back to the board, and then separately, the board would also say, this is who we want to bus and this is who we don't want to bus.
So you would come back and saying, we agree with your plan, but then you could also come back and we still want busing in this area, but.
Yep. Okay.
But you could say, for example, we don't want middle schoolers crossing Holmen Drive either. We feel that's too hazardous.
Yep. Okay.
So I know these maps, there's a lot to look at on them and so on. So if you take more time in our reviewing that, I mean, we can make sure.
We're both available for questions if
Right,
you have them about the zones.
And always send feedback to Dan and Andrea on that.
And what's the timeline like for this to come back to the board? And then I guess when I look at these, one of the things I like have a hard time taking off my parent hat, and I'm thinking of all these parents who've had kids bust, and even with the small areas that were affected this year, like I know I heard from parents about that and how it impacted work and just schedule. And so I'm just wondering, like, when does it come back to the board? And then, like, when would those decisions about busing, if there are changes, be communicated out to parents?
As soon as possible. We're hoping to actually next month to have it approved by the sheriff's department. And then so probably the following month, or as soon as that's approved, I would put it back on the agenda to meet with the board again. And by then we should have an even more defined map and areas.
It is almost two different discussions though,
Yes.
too.
Yes.
Because the
Can
burden
confuse
is
them.
on our district to prove, if we don't want middle schoolers crossing Holmen Drive, that it is too hazardous. And if the sheriff disagrees and says, no, I think it's safe for them to walk, then we're not going to be able to
Yes.
push that through as a hazardous area.
Right.
So this is kind of separate from the actual who is going to receive busing discussion. This is a template for it because that red area does mean we do have busing there. And then we just have to talk about those gray areas as to whether or not we want to continue to provide busing there.
Okay.
So,
Does that help kind of clear it up a
So-
little bit?
and
It does. I guess like what I'm thinking of too is like, is the safe routes plan and how granular that gets with like crossing points and when there are gaps in sidewalks, like which you mentioned doesn't necessarily mean it's unusually hazardous, but all of that sort of layers together with those other factors. And just knowing that like that plan is out of date. And then if I don't know how, I guess like the law enforcement, like are they doing counts in all these intersections or is it based on crash data?
A lot of it was records that they had, like the amount of vehicles on certain roads. They're looking at a lot of traffic counts. And then some of it's from just personal experience from them being in the area and going, you know what, because we talked about several intersections, like none of us really like that intersection, but does it make it hazardous is what it came back down to. And it's a busy intersection. It might take you time to, time to cross, but there is a light there. So it's not unusually hazardous. It's burdensome, it's not fun, but it's not hazardous in their view.
yeah, I think the key is we might feel some intersections aren't safe because of our standards that we have in the School District of Holmen, but realize that we have to prove with rationale and have supportive law enforcement around that. So there will be areas that down the road we have to have discussion if we are going to bus or not. We just would not get aid for that. So this plan is just about the aid, like Andrea had mentioned in that. And really our goal, like previous year, is by May, we determine if we are doing anything different with our busing in that routes and expansion of zones and what that would look like so that we're able to communicate in plenty of time over just like the timeline that we used last year, if need be. So,
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because, I mean, yes, we have a certain standard here that makes it difficult for families to make changes, but I also think about the other side of it where the socioeconomic status where folks don't have cars, if it's bad weather days, like there's pockets of those on these maps that I am already somewhat concerned about.
Or flexible work schedules.
Yes,
It comes to mind
yes.
too.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 8.4. Next, Director of Facility Services Chad Brando will present bids received for the boiler replacement at Prairie View Elementary. This item will appear on tonight's consent agenda.
Good evening, everyone. I finally get to talk to you about something other than the 2022 referendum. And if there's anybody in here that had anything to do with the 2007 sinking fund establishment, I would like to say thank you. Thank you very, very much. As you can see, we were very lucky to have 8 bids that we, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, we're very lucky that we had 8 bids. We extended the bid date by 1 week, the first week for the bids. We had a nasty snowstorm, so we figured let's go and set it back 1 more week and see if we can get some more contractors to come in. So we had 4 more contractors come in. And as you can see from high to low bid, we had about $104,000 difference. So that was very good for us to get those bids. As you can see, Johnson Controls came in with a combined low bid of $228,000. HSR vetted them very thoroughly, that they understood the entire project, everything that was going to be done. So right now we feel very confident with that. This was already established in my 2023-24 budget that was approved. Again, this is coming out of the Prairie View Sinking Fund. One thing I'd share with you real quick is as far as the new boilers, just based on this kind of boiler design, these are the same condensing boilers like we have now from 2009. What we have now is the efficiency rating is approximately 75%. And these new boilers will be at 97%. And what that means to us is like if it's 75% efficient, that means that 25% of the heat is going right out the exhaust, and it's not heating our water. That's a lot to have go out the exhaust. So right now we'll be at 97%. We'll be expending 3% out the stack, much cooler, we should be getting some payback for these, be able to build up the sinking fund some more for something else that's large dollar. So again, if there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer anything, but just wanted to bring this to your attention tonight.
Any questions?
What's the lifespan on this one? You said
These are all right between, they say 10 to 20 years. 15 is the average that everybody's playing with, and ours are right at that 15-year mark.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 8.5. Holmen High School Activities Director Jason Luloff will now present on the WIAA Boys Lacrosse Co-op, which will appear on the February 26th consent agenda.
Hello. I'm here to talk about the lacrosse co-op. So just a little quick backstory. The WIA sanctioned both boys and girls lacrosse, the sport lacrosse, as a WIA sport. This spring will be the first season of the sport. Last year, we did not bring a proposal to you to get on board with that. There are many local clubs, I shouldn't say local, there are many clubs across the state that have always sort of participated in lacrosse. And in the original adoption phase, I believe all but 2 co-ops were adopted into the WIA. Us being one of the local clubs, Lacrosse Lightning, if you're familiar, was one of the ones that was not. And then I believe Somerset might have been the other one. But regardless, the Lacrosse Lightning group has been working very diligently with local athletic directors, from Lacrosse Central, Lacrosse Logan, Lacrosse Aquinas, myself, Onalaska Luther, Onalaska, and West Salem, and that is the proposed co-op. What we're asking for is one varsity level at this time. With that being said, the idea of this co-op would be to grow that. So into a varsity and a JV level. And then along with that, hopefully eventually a girls varsity and girls JV. The reason why the girls is not being proposed at the moment is a lack of numbers in those combined schools to field one team. The club is pretty hopeful that numbers will steadily increase pretty soon, especially with the sanctioning of the sport kind of sparking a lot of other communities to see spikes in the girls' participation. Some of the logistics of the co-op, as I mentioned, all the schools that were being talked to, all of them have current players in the Lacrosse Lightning club except Logan. Holmen, I believe, currently has 2 players, but we used to be one of the hotbeds of the sport when Lacrosse Lightning was primarily played out of the Holmen area. Central has the largest number of participants, currently projected participants, and Central would be the co-op host, Lacrosse Central. The co-op would be structured that every 2 years when we had to renew, the team with the largest number of participants would organically be the host school. That was one of the things agreed upon. The conversations with the current Lacrosse Lightning Club have been very productive in trying to figure out a potential budget, although that's a really difficult thing to figure out because the conferences for this are quite sparse or spread out, and projecting some of the equipment costs needed based on number of players, et cetera, is just not exact. But we're kind of anticipating in year one the cost per athlete being somewhere around $1,250 per athlete. And then again, as I mentioned earlier, Holmen is projected to have two athletes that are currently playing. But if I'm being realistic, I would think that when the opportunity was opened up, we would probably have more. Some of the other things, like I had mentioned earlier, to think about with these co-ops is this is spread like our other co-ops, or anticipated to be spread like our other co-ops, meaning that it's a per athlete cost from the host school divvied out to each of the participating schools and split that way. How that school district decides to then either pass that on to parents or pay it would be up to us. The club has actually got quite a few ideas in trying to help cut some costs. Essentially trying to be a true booster club for the co-op. That would be currently up to Lacrosse Central on whether or not that would be how that would all look and work. And then obviously if it shifted from them to us ever, we would have to have those conversations as well. Questions from any of you?
How does the estimated cost that's in the issue paper compare to other sports, just out of curiosity?
So, I mean, I know of the co-ops we're currently in. Hockey is closer to $2,500 per athlete. Swimming is closer to $600 to $800 per athlete. A lot of the factors, it's really hard to give you those numbers because if you have a really successful co-op that participates deep into the postseason, all the transportation costs for those trips pile up. Generally, they're a lot farther than your conference play. So, like for example, if our hockey team does really well, the cost goes up. And if our hockey team gets eliminated first round, the cost is lower. Swimming's a little bit more consistent. Our postseason experience has been pretty consistent over the last couple of years, and that's probably reflected in the more consistent cost.
Can I just I would say as a cost comparison, it would be very similar to hockey, where a lot of the kids are going to buy their own gear as opposed to like football, where most of the gear and stuff is provided for themselves. Like we don't provide hockey sticks for the team.
Gotcha.
And that's one of the most significant costs in the lacrosse gear is the lacrosse sticks and helmets and stuff like that. So.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, moving on to item 8.6. Director of Student Services and Safety, Jennifer Gimmer, will present the Youth Risk Behavior Survey results. This item is for report only.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Jennifer Gimmer. I'm the Director of Safety and Student Services. It's nice to see you all again. So I'll be going over the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, also known as the YRBS. I'll be reporting on 22-23 school year data, so the students who took it last year. So what is the YRBS? So the YRBS is a survey conducted by the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention. This is completed every 2 years. It really is, the purpose behind it is to monitor health risks and behaviors that our nation is deemed as chronic or pretty significant for our high school and middle school students. Our response rate was great. We had 934 completed surveys, and what that means by completed surveys is it was done entirely, no questions skipped. If a question was skipped or not answered, it was deemed as not completed. The response rate was 77%, which is identified as strong. We want a response rate over 70%, so this data is pretty accurate. Our middle school data has not been released, so that is to be determined. I didn't want to wait on reporting this data out because we need to act on it. So as soon as the middle school data comes in, we'll incorporate that as well with our action report. So what does the YRBS measure? As you can see, there's a long list of measurements going from motor vehicle safety to drug use, tobacco use, sexual behavior, mental health, protective factors. It's a wide encompass of different topics it measures. How is the data analyzed? So this is how YRBS breaks down their data. So they go over all relevant student population. So as you can see, that would be like that red tab, that's overall. They then break down by sex, which sex to them is male and female. They then break down by grade level, so 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. And they also identify high-risk populations, which we'll dive into more. And they look at high-risk populations and the subtopics of their mental health concerns, bullying, sense of belonging, and having a teacher to talk to. So how I analyze the YRBS data for us today, it's really good to use YRBS data to analyze with the county report. We do not have access to the county report yet, and that is best practice to really do that. So once we get that county report results in, we will be taking a look at it with student services and our overall district. But for us to act on the data now, we need to start looking at it. So what was done is taking a 3-year trend analysis, so our 18-19, 20-21, or 22-23 school year, and looking for trends. As you know, the YRBS is a snapshot, one data piece. Some students may be off on taking it, some may be rushing through it. We want to look through a trend through those 3-year data points. What was used for a positive or negative trend was 5%. It's pretty hard to find a statistically significant score when you look at percentage points. You really need to know the number of students to deem what is significantly statistic. However, YRBS doesn't give you the total students per question. So to give us some guidance, we use 5% increase or decrease as a trend. So we're going to be going through each area, and I will just discuss some of the things we saw. So in the area of motor vehicle safety, we saw a decrease in seatbelt use overall. It went from 95% to 90% of our students using seatbelts. Increase in drinking and driving, increased from 2% to 7%. Increase in texting and driving went from 44% to 50%. And an increase in drivers taking risks was 44 to 50%. And what taking risk means is encompassing like drinking and driving, texting and driving, all of it into one question. The area of school safety and school climate. Decrease in students thinking violence is a problem at school went from 18 to 13%. Increase in students thinking bullying is a problem, and this is more specific to female students, that went from 51 to 58%. However, I did include this data as a point because it went from 51 to 63 and then back down to 58%. And it's important to highlight, while it's not a complete trend line, that is a stat that I don't want overlooked. Increase in students feeling like they belong at school went up from 60% to 66%. So some action steps. We do a lot already in our district to encompass this. I'm just going to highlight new initiatives that are happening. And this is not all encompassing of what our student services and our administration in our district does for our students and community. So some new things going on right now is really promoting Stop It as a reporting mechanism. We're pushing that out on social media, hanging up posters in our schools, really encouraging students to report so we can act. Also, we are exploring restorative work. What that means is completing restorative work when harm was done. How can we fix the wrong? Next is the mental health and well-being, trauma, and adversity. These are separate but combined it into one area. We saw an increase in females who reported depression. It went from 36 to 42% of our females are reporting depression. A decrease in males who are self-reporting depression. It went down from 21% to 13% of our males. We saw an increase in females who are reporting themselves self-harm. That has gone up from 24% to 30%. We saw a decrease in females who have experienced sexual or dating violence. That has gone from 30% to 22%. A decrease in females who have witnessed an attack. That has decreased from 11% to only 5%. And a decrease in females who have moved many times, meaning like high transient students. This has decreased from 36 to 28%. Some action steps that are new initiatives. Implementation of an SEL screener for early identification. We'll be rolling out a social emotional learning screener that measures pro-social and social emotional competencies. That way, if we measure our students' pro-social skills, we can hopefully identify students who are needing to get more skills taught up to prevent any negative mental health or maladaptive behaviors. In addition, we are developing a robust mental health pathway. What that means is our student services and our crisis response and recovery team are really working together of how can we streamline our students with chronic mental health and access to mental health therapy. Our school counselors are really meant for short-term visits, not long-term robust therapy. So we're working on connecting our students with outside providers. Next is sexual behavior, tobacco, alcohol, and drug use. We've seen an increase in males who are currently sexually active from 16 to 21%. An increase in students who have tried quitting tobacco from 33 to 60% of our students are actively trying to quit tobacco / nicotine e-cigarettes. Increase in students who are actively using alcohol from 20% to 30%. An increase in students who are binge drinking, 7 to 15%. An increase in students who are currently using marijuana, 11 to 16%. An increase in males who have ever used marijuana has increased from 17 to 23%. So we've seen an increase, as you can see, a lot of impact. We're seeing a huge data trend on alcohol and substance abuse. One action step we are currently taking that's a new initiative is we're having school counselors and their social workers trained on Teen Intervene. And Teen Intervene is really an evidence-based program for youth ages 12 to 19 who are suspected of mild to moderate substance abuse. We recently have put our high school counselor and our social worker through this, and our school social workers already started implementing some groups for this. The next area is technology use, physical health, and nutrition. We've seen an increase of moderate to heavy screen time from 40% up to 77%. Moderate screen time is 8 hours plus a day. Decrease to students who have no sustained exercise. This has gone from 15% down to 10%. An increase in students who have exercised most days. This is an increase from 58 to 68%. Increase in fruit consumption, 50 to 56%. An increase in vegetable consumption, 46 to 52. And a decrease in breakfast, 41 to 36. I want to give a shout out to our nutrition department. I think a lot of our stats here attribute to the positive work they've been doing. Okay. Higher risk populations. This is what I was explaining of. These are the subgroups of students that they've deemed as areas of students that are often the most impacted or lack of support and often ostracized in school systems. So the subgroups we'll be looking at are food insecure students, LGBTQ plus students, students of color, students with low grades, students with physical disabilities, and students with special education services. And the 4 questions they were asked at the beginning are sense of belonging, bullying, school connectedness, and mental health concerns. So higher risk populations, food insecure students, we saw a decrease in sense of belonging from 43% to 34%. However, it's important to know that there was an increase 2 years ago. It went up from 43 to 50, but back down to 34%. So I wanted to make sure that data piece was not missed. Decrease in any mental health concern. We went down from 74 to 66%. And so that means 66% of our students who are food insecure have a mental health concern, which is still a pretty significant statistic. Our LGBTQ students have increased having a teacher or one other adult they can talk to at school. They've gone up from 58 to 66% of our students feel that they have someone they can talk to. Our students of color, and this is important to note, this is not a 3-year data analysis. YRBS only started breaking down demographics by race in 2 years, so I only have 2 data points on this. So it's not a 3-year trend, 2 data points. Our students of color identified as Hispanic have decreased in sense of belonging, went from 59% to 53%. There's been an increase in bullying at school or at line, went from 18 up to 35%. Decrease in having a teacher or other adult to talk to at school has gone down from 66 to 61%. And the increase in poor mental health has gone up from 42 to 68% of our students who identify as Hispanic are having poor mental health. Students of color, and this is listed as having multiple, not just students who are Black, decrease in sense of belonging, 55 to 43%. This is an error on my part. It's supposed to be green, this next one. This is a decrease in being bullied at school, so it should be green. It has gone from 34% to 24%. And then a decrease in poor mental health has gone down from 69 to 58%. Still, again, I want to highlight, while that is green, it's still a concerning statistic. Our students with physical disabilities, we've seen a decrease in their sense of belonging. They've gone from 50%, they peaked at 65% the last time, and now they're back down to 50%. Students with special education services, so increase in having a teacher or one adult they can talk to. So these are students with current special education services or past service. They've gone from 78, they dropped down to 67, and they're back up to 78 to where they were. Students with past services, so meaning they're not currently serviced, used to have an IEP, were dismissed. They went up from 49% to 66%. Also, there was a decrease in mental health concerns for students who had past IEP services. They were at 58% now, and they went up to 65%. So really, when you look at this work, we want to align it to our district strategic plan, and we don't have all the answers today. I added some posing questions that we're really going to be looking at the district, especially when you look at our high-risk populations. Those data and statistics are concerning, and they have been concerning for quite some time. So I just want to share with you some of the initiatives we are doing right now that are specifically targeting our high-risk populations to hopefully combat some of that data. Our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion DEI committee is really working on developing a long-range plan with action steps. We met today and really targeted how can we develop a long-range plan to help support and encourage an inclusive environment for our students, really focusing on our student learning, workforce, community health, and health and safety. We've also developed partnerships with Ho Chunk Nation. Continuing those partnerships will be something we'll really highlight, and we're looking to next beginning our partnerships with the Hmong community. We have been working on our gender support plans and moving forward with affirming a student's gender identity rather than focusing on name change and the legalities behind name change. How are we really affirming the student's identity and gender? We're developing guidance around holidays and heritage months, so we have an inclusive community in school. We are developing partnerships with local agencies that support higher risk populations. For example, we've developed a partnership recently with Rhymes, which supports homeless youth in the area. In addition, we've been working with La Crosse County on the La Crosse County Equity Plan that would not only benefit our students, that would help the community at a greater large. Lastly, we're beginning to explore a robust support system around identity-based harm and how to support those who are experiencing identity-based harm. While again, those are not all an exhaustive list, I want to highlight the key things that are happening right now in our school system that are helping combat this data. Any questions?
All right, any questions?
How was this administered? I don't know if you, I just remember that when I was administered this in school, it was paper and pencil. Is it still?
Nope, it is electronic now.
That has to be a lot.
Yes,
easier to
I think too,
process.
that's why their response rate has probably gone up significantly. It's a lot more accessible.
Sure.
I would just say, first of all, thank you for the presentation and to everyone who I think ensures that we participate in YRBS. I think they're important metrics. I guess one thought I had just with this last slide, do we do any communication to students about the results? I think, we heard from student council earlier, like they had very creative ideas and just wonder about all that data we collect from the students. Do we ever tell them, what it said and ask them to be part of the solution?
I think that's a great idea. I'll be working with our high school student services department, the wonderful ladies who just presented, along our social worker and school psychologist there, and that will definitely be something I bring to them because I don't believe that has been a past practice, and I can see the powerful impact
Mr.
it could have.
Buck, it has been.
We have building goals that are
Yep.
around the YRBS data that we share with students, specifically targeting things about belonging. And there are also certain classes that actually break down some of this data. Like a global social issues, for example, that's in the social studies electives class. They actually take this down, break it down with kids, kind of dissect it and such things. But yeah, so we certainly have elements, and we share that with all students.
Thank you.
Not all of the data, as you know, it's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
Kind of just earmark specific ones that are aligned to our dashboard goals.
Any other questions?
Will there be a partnership with, say, the health department? Because I think they're going to be taking over kind of analyzing this data like across all of our school districts in the county.
Yeah, it will be interesting of how this unfolds. They have a new YRBS coordinator for DPI, and that kind of has changed some things for them. So I can't answer that right now, but I'm looking forward to the change of leadership and what could possibly come from this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We also just received a email to come to a community input session with the La Crosse County, and the topic is health and that. So some of us will be attending that coming up in the next month also to see what results they have and to give input on their results from their Compass survey on health.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. For the consent agenda, the board has been furnished with background materials on each item or as discussed it at a previous meeting. These will be acted upon with one vote without discussion. Would any board member like to pull an item out of the consent agenda to be discussed and or voted on separately? And I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as provided.
So moved.
Chris?
Second.
That was Maggie?
Yes.
Okay, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, signify by saying nay. Motion passes.
Yeah, I'd like to recognize some retirements this evening and that. And really, I have a list here of a few. And I just want to thank all these retirees. You'll see here the amount of years of service many of them have given to our students and community, and we're just so thankful for all their dedication over all these years. So Amy Cobes has been a counselor at Sand Lake for 29 years and is going to be dearly missed, along with her just everything that she continues to do there. And then also at the high school, we have Lori Volkman, who currently is special educate, 33 years of service. So there's a lot of experience. And Tina Thompson has been there 8 years at the high school. And then Ann Marcos has been for 31 years a science teacher at the high school. So they will all be retiring. And then we also have Sandy Thompson Melby at Evergreen, 34 years of service. It's just the amount of dedication, I think, of 34 years. We have many people that haven't even reached that age, and just to give that much of their life to our students, we're so thankful. And then also a custodian, Lance Bowe, 25 years in his role in the district. I can't imagine well, I shouldn't even say it, how many toilets that he's cleaned over all those years. But anyways, I just am so thankful. It just shows how once people come to Holmen and they're just so dedicated to really serving our students and community, and we're so thankful for that. Wish them well in their endeavors, and hope they continue to come back to visit whenever they would like. So thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving on to the board debrief. I will call upon board members and ask you to present any comments or committee reports you have. So tonight we start with Chris.
We have a policy meeting March 18th, so next month. It's off Monday for us. I believe it's the night of the candidate forum. I just want to thank the counselors for coming out tonight and presenting on the amazing and very important work they do. The YRBS data is always enlightening and eye-opening, and it really supports the work that they and the need for them in our district. So I really want to thank them for coming out tonight and all the work they do all year. It's just beyond impressive. It's always bittersweet to hear the retirements. It seems like that's a very, very high number of years. It seems like the most cases that we always hear about. So just thanks to those folks that are retiring for their service to the district. It's great that people are willing to commit their livelihoods to our students and our families. So that's really great. And I just want to thank Jason for bringing forward the proposal for the lacrosse. If you're not familiar with the sport of lacrosse, it's very popular in the Minneapolis area, down in Madison and Milwaukee. I think once we get an opportunity, like Jason said, to have it be in lacrosse, I think it's going to explode. It's a very fun sport to watch. It's very cool. I didn't have anything to do with Jason, so I don't want to get that out there. But yeah, it's just I hope you will support it, because I think it's a really good opportunity for our community in the lacrosse area to support that sport. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Maggie.
Yeah, I guess I have to say, it seems like being La Crosse County, we should be supporting the sport of lacrosse. It's part of our namesake. I will just say thank you to, I know we mentioned bus driver appreciation, the whole transportation team presenting tonight, the school counselors who were here, and everyone else who presented and answered lots of questions tonight. And we'll echo the congratulations to those retiring, one of whom is one of my own children's teachers. So wishing them all the best, and lots of peaceful days after they retire.
All right, thank you. Bridget.
Yeah, so many of the things that both of you said, I echo. But I also wanted to give a special shout out to our very own Crystal Lee and then Daniel Ott, who we heard from the student council. Their participation in our DEI committee is amazing. Their insight and their willingness to share their student perspective is absolutely incredible, and what a gift that you bring to that committee. So much gratitude to both of you. Also, congrats to Quinn Moldenhauer, who presented. She got this great achievement through DECA. And then also to the two middle schoolers, Iris and Liana, who are state-bound in that spelling bee. And then finally, just, so much appreciation to our bus drivers and the transportation team. Thank you so much.
All right, Barb.
DEI committee meeting tonight. I had made the comment to a couple people. I think we had more progress tonight than we had in our previous few months. I'm very excited because, as Jennifer had just noted, some of the things that are already being done in our district, we have, I think, an excellent foundation to where we move going forward with our long-range planning, knowing that we still have a lot of work to do. But tonight was very exciting. So, also just wanted to give a shout out to the high school bowling team because we have Lucas and Dylan who are also headed to state. We don't hear about the bowling team very often, but there are two going to state. And then also just a shout out to Mrs. Wopat and our nutritional services who are up for the best of La Crosse County. So if you get a chance to vote, for them to be recognized. And then finally, just shout out to our school bus and van drivers because I think that we're special here in Holmen that we still have our own bus service. And I think that's why we are so great is because we hire from on our own and we don't contract. And I think that's something that we need to remember going forward is how special that is.
All right, thank you. Crystal.
Well, I want to echo everything you guys have also said, those wonderful words said. Hopefully I'm not spoiling anything, but currently as a member of DEI, I do feel like there has been a lot of development and good conversations throughout that whole the meeting tonight that we had. And I look forward to moving on and bringing in a better future for this. I also want to just say great job to the Student Council for creating a presentation, for letting us get an insight on their recap, and standout student. It's a great thing that they're doing, and I think it should be recognized more. I also want to say thank you to the school counselors for providing all that they do and just creating a good impact and welcoming environment for our students, just for us to come to school. I think it's a wonderful thing. And moving on to some student activity, I will say the solo ensemble will be this Saturday. It runs from 7:30 in the morning to 4 p.m. and we have various of students in the music department performing. So I hope everybody in this room wishes our music department and students in there great luck to the pieces that they've worked very hard on. But yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you. Khadijah.
Yeah, so I also want to shout out the school counselors. I think something that really stood out to me in their presentation was this idea of like when you're stressed, it's really hard to learn anything. And that resonates really deeply with a lot of different things I've done in my professional life. And so to hear that like that is a focus of our school counselors is really important. And it just speaks to the level of commitment that they have to our students, that they're continuing to seek out ways to support them. And so as we talk about, things like YRBS data and even our DEI committee, as we're talking about things around mental health, as we're talking about things like belonging, which came up a lot in the YRBS and, is one of our words as a school district. And so I think, folks like the school counselors, folks like the student council who are doing these great student shout-outs, or standout students, sorry. It's showing me that we have a culture of this willingness to continue to be better at what we're doing. And so I see that in the DEI committee work that I've gotten to be a part of as well. And then also thank you so much to the transportation department. Those maps were incredible. Congratulations on being able to put something like that together. I was just looking at it like, wow, this is impressive. And thank you to all of our bus drivers and van drivers. I know you guys work really hard, and managing children while driving is its own skill set, and so I appreciate all the work that they do. And then the last is kind of on a personal note. Some of the names on the retiree list are folks that I had as a student here, and so it's I I don't feel like I graduated that long ago, but someone pointed out it's been 10 years. And so wishing them all happy retirement, hopefully. They know that Holmen will always be their family. So thanks.
All right, thank you. I also want to give a shout out to the Transportation Department, given that it's School Bus Driver Recognition Week, and just, thank you for keeping all of our students safe every single day. I really appreciated the presentations tonight by both the Student Council and the student counselors, so thanks for coming here and presenting. And want to also thank all the retirees that were mentioned for their service. And Amy Cobes is my kid's counselor over at Sand Lake, and I can't think of a better person in that role. So she's going to be greatly missed, and she's great with both the students and the families. So that's going to be some hard shoes to fill. So that's what I have. Moving on to the board meeting schedule. Upcoming is a policy committee meeting at 5 p.m. on February 26th, followed by a board meeting at 7 p.m. Then on March 6th, we have a board workshop at 5 p.m. Then on March 11th, we have a DEI committee meeting at 5 p.m., followed by a board meeting at 7 p.m. And then on March 18th, we have the policy committee meeting at 5 p.m., followed by the candidate forum at 7 p.m. So is there any other business that needs to come before the board at this time? If not, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Barb?
Second.
Thank you. Khadijah seconded the meeting at 8:35 p.m. Motion carried. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes.